All right. Okay, Chavra, it's wonderful to see everybody, and hoping that everybody is doing well. This evening we have an interesting parsha to talk about, and specifically a really interesting sugya within the parsha to talk about. Something that is on the hand a deep dive into the world of Ishbitzer, but also a deep dive into psychology of human beings, and the way that we live our lives, and the things that make us upset, and the things that make us disappointed, and what the Torah has to say about all of these things. And all of this, we will see, is contained within Parshas Emor. Because Parshas Emor has two sides to it that almost seem to have nothing to do with each other. Even the first side of it doesn't seem to have any real cohesive connections to it. Of course, the second half of the parsha is well known. So we'll start with the second part. The second part of the parsha is all about the Moadim. All of the Balei Kriya know that the end of Parshas Emor shows up every single Yom Tov, because it talks about all of the Yom Tovim, all of the Mikrei Kodesh, all of the special days that we have in the Jewish calendar. Specifically, the Torah speaks about the Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, as well as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. 5 different Yom Tovim that are focused on in Parshas Emor. And the Ishbitzer, the Mea Shilach, it's Ramon Chai Yosef Leiner, the first Rebbe of Ishbitzer, notes that there are 5 parshas, 5 sugyas, 5 topics that the Torah discusses before these 5 Yom Tovim. And what he's going to spell out for us is that these 5 parshas are hitting to and getting to the root of the 5 things that frustrate, upset, and cause massive disappointment in our lives. And the antidote to those 5 things is what we gain from the 5 Yom Tovim that are listed. Which means what we're going to be able to explore this evening is, firstly, a tremendous world of validation and empathy that the Ishbitzer opens for us into what are the things that make us upset and disappointed, concretizing them, naming them, focusing on them, and understanding what they are. In many ways, naming the beast. But we're also going to, please God, have an opportunity to see a little bit of how we are supposed to reframe and rethink and reconsider some of those things to make the challenges and disappointments in our lives more contendable, more dealable, especially in a year that we've had, the last year and a half, 12, 16, 18 months of the world being topsy-turvy and turned on its head. But Hashem, we're going to have an opportunity now to take a look deeply inside to try to understand it. For those that have the Sefer at home, this is the last piece of the Mea Shalach in Parshas Emor, on the parsha of in Chelek Aleph. And we'll open this up here so that we can zoom in just a little bit, and then we'll be able to, please God, follow along a little bit better. There we go. Our zooming. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so says the Ishbitzer as follows. He says, "Ba'asitra hazos." In this week's parsha, yesh chamisha parshas. There are 5 parshas, ad parshas ha'moedos, until the parsha of the moedos. Meaning, there's 10 sections here. 5 before Yom Tovs and 5 of the Yom Tovs. It says, "V'heim neged hey mine taromis sheyuchol lihimatze belev ha'adam al midoso shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu." And these 5 parshas at the beginning of Parshas Emor are dealing with the 5 complaints that arise within a person's heart against the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. On the outset, this would be a strange placement. Let's just consider that for a moment. Why is this parsha talking to us about the complaints that exist against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that exist in people's hearts? But as we've noted before in previous shiurim, the entirety of Sefer Vayikra, Torah's Kohanim, while it deals primarily with the work of the Kohen and the Beis Hamikdash, it also deals with the idealized state of the Jewish people and the aspect within each and every one of us that's Omed Lifnei Hashem, that stands in front of Hashem. If we view the Jewish people as microcosms and macrocosms of concentric circles working their way out from the Kohen Gadol to the whole world. So we'll notice that, and this is how all of the Svarim and Kadmonim speak about, that the world is divided up into Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. The original source of this, of course, is in the Sefer Yitzira. Olam, Shana, and Nefesh literally means space, time, and people. In the world of space, there are places, there are spaces that are more mekudesh. For example, this is easy to understand, that inside of the Beis Hamikdash, there's a place called Kodesh HaKodashim. And from there is a Kodesh, and from there is a Azara. The Kodesh HaKodashim is the epicenter of all Kedusha in the world. And from there's the place of Kedusha that only Kohanim are allowed to enter. And from there is a place that it's called the Beis Hamikdash, that you're only allowed to come to if you are tahor, if you are ritually pure. And then from there is Harabayis and Yerushalayim, like the Mishnah says in Maseches Midas, that there's Asara Kedushas. There are 10 levels of descending Kedusha, all the way from Kodesh HaKodashim, that diffuse into the rest of the world. And the same, of course, is true about the Kohen Gadol himself. The Kohen Gadol is the microcosm of the Jewish people. That's why he carries on his chest the names of the 12 tribes of the Jewish people, the 12 Shvatim. And that's the microcosm of the entirety of the Jewish people. We should point out that Rashi notes in Sefer Bamidbar and Parshas Bamidbar that the Parshas Bamidbar and Parshas Nasa, that the stones that were on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol and the Choshen Mishpat, the colors of those stones corresponded to the flags that waved above each of the tribes. So if you would almost zoom out from the tribes and get like the whole of the machane of the Jewish people, the entire Jewish camp, in one snapshot, it would be akin to the colors and placements of the Choshen Mishpat of the Kohen Gadol, which means that when we're talking about Beis Hamikdash and we're talking about Kohanim and we're talking about Kedusha, what we are talking about is the inner world of each and every Jew. Which means that even those of us that are not Kohanim, and even those of us that are not serving the Beis Hamikdash, and even in generations that are not Zocha to have a Beis Hamikdash like ours, at least for the moment, please God, very soon, even for us, and even as distant as we may be, and even for Rel Blumenthal, who is a Yisrael, to understand that we are all connected to and relating to the world of Kahuna, the world of Gan Eden, the world of connecting to Hashem, for which the Kohanim and the Beis Hamikdash are a mashal, a parable, as well as a representation of. So when we're talking about the disappointments that exist within the heart of people, so these things manifest as halachas in the world of a kohen in the Beis Hamikdash. And now we can begin. The very first thing, the very first and greatest, most devastating reality that a person will ever encounter, that any person will ever encounter, is the challenge of death. And to that end, the Ishbitzer notes that the beginning of Parshas Emor begins with Tumas Kohanim. Emor Kohanim b'nei Aaron v'amarta aleim l'nefesh lo yitamu be'amav, you're not allowed to become tameh, except for the 7 closest relatives. And Kohen Gadol is not allowed to become tameh at all. He says, "A parsha Rishona hu minafshas meis." The first parsha is talking about nafshas meis, is talking about death. What does death create within a person? So we know that halachically it creates tumah. The Sefer HaChinuch notes, as well as many of the other Rishonim, that tumah, while it is a halachic reality, is also very deeply a psychological reality. In fact, so much so that some of the Rishonim argue that the halachic reality is as a result of the psychological reality. What death does when we encounter it is that it changes the way that we look at the world, at least temporarily, maybe even permanently. Of course, the way of removing death is something very mysterious that's called para aduma. And that's a process. That takes some time, at least a week, of engaging with the para aduma waters twice, and then going to the mikveh and waiting until the sun sets. There's a period of time that has to be contended with before a person can be absolved of the psychological baggage that comes with encountering death. And so the Rebbe writes, he says, the first challenge that a person contends with when we talk about disappointment and failure and fragility of existence is death. V'hu neged haromis sheyesh b'leiv ha'adam. And when the Torah speaks about the kohen becoming tameh, what the Torah is speaking about is the taromis, the complaint that arises in the hearts of people, al hamisa, on the concept of death, va'heder hamatzu ba'olam, and the general state of loss and lacking and entropy that exists in the world. There's a sense of hopelessness when we encounter and engage with death, especially if it's somebody that we love, especially if it is somebody that we are close to, and especially if we are in physical proximity to it, which is where the laws of Tumah and Tahara are most prevalent. So a person engages with, encounters death. That's what a Kohen does. He's not supposed to. And then all of a sudden he's yanked out of the Mishkan, yanked out of the Beis HaMikdash. He's told, unfortunately, somebody was niftar. You have to go and tend to that burial. And now you can't come back to the Beis HaMikdash until you are Tahar again. So here you have the Kohen who's living in a world of, look at me, I'm serving Hashem and it's beautiful and life is great and things are magnificent, and all of a sudden he finds out, Rahman al-Itzlan, somebody close to him has died. So now he has to be pulled out of the Mishkan, pulled out of the Beis HaMikdash to tend to something that nobody ever wants to deal with. And that's a terrible feeling that exists within a person. Ribbon Shalom, look at where I was. I was in the middle of serving you in the greatest way possible. I was in the greatest place, in the deepest place, with all of my heart and mind and body coalescing together to be where you want me to be. And now now's the time that you're going to send this Malach HaMavis to destroy my life and my family? Now's this time that you're going to do this to me? Ribbon Shalom. Ribbon Shalom, how could you? And that Kohen that has been waiting his whole life, because the Kohanim worked with mishmaris, with allocations of when they were able to do the avoda. Everybody got 2 weeks out of the year that their group of Kohanim was allowed to be in the Beis HaMikdash, was working in the Beis HaMikdash. This guy's been preparing, he's working. Could be that this is his day, maybe the first time or the only time in his life that he's had the opportunity, that he's had the availability to serve Hashem in this particular way, and then all of a sudden, it's gone. It's gone. And he didn't do it. He prepared. Everything was wonderful. He was doing all the right things. And then all of a sudden, death enters the equation. There's a tremendous taromis that exists. Now, of course, akin to this is not just a Kohen living in the Beis HaMikdash, but every Jew living our lives as we do, serving Hashem in the right way, in the best way, as much as we possibly can. There is the looming nature of death that exists in all of our lives. Our own mortality, the mortality of people that we love, people that we care about, people that we're davening for, with the understanding that even when death hasn't yet occurred, it is still going to. There's no way out of that. It's almost like this permanent stain that exists on everything that we do is not meant to last. We're living in a very broken world. And so this Jew, this Kohen, this all of us that are in that place that Hashem, can't you just keep this going? We're there already. You're going to pull me out of that because the world is messed up, the world is broken. Hashem, can you just fix that already? Can you just change that? We know that once upon a time we were in Gan Eden. There was no Malach Mavis there. People would live forever. Hashem, you want to flick that switch? You want to get us back there? Is there any chance possibly that we can be in that place again? That's the first parsha. That's the first complaint. Parsha Rishayna hu minafshas meis hu neged tarim sheyesh belev adam al hamisa v'haeder hamatzu ba'olam, loss and death and entropy. That's our first complaint. The overwhelming complaint that exists by everybody. Parsha Hashenis. What's the second parsha here? He mibal mum. The Torah continues after discussing the Kohen engaging with death and the tumah of death. Is that there's something called a bal mum. Bal mum is somebody that was born a Kohen. There's older brothers that are Kohanim. There's younger brothers that are Kohanim. Tati's a Kohen, Zaydi's a Kohen. He's born into the world and everybody is His whole family, his whole world is about being a Kohen. Every year, his family goes to the Beis Hamikdash. They're engaging in Kedusha and Tahara. They're offering the Korbanos. They're working on behalf of the Jewish people. But not this kid. Not this kid, because he's a Balmum. Because he has a blemish. Because there's something wrong with him. He's not whole. He's not full. And it's irreparably so. There's something wrong with him. His hands don't work like they're supposed to work. His eyes don't work like they're supposed to work. He can't walk like a Kohen is supposed to walk. And it's for no fault of his own. This, of course, is one of the greatest challenges in the world for parents. And this, of course, is one of the greatest challenges in the world for people that live with these ailments. You look around and you say, why is it? Why is it? Ribbon Shalom. You don't realize what I could do if you wouldn't have made me like with this problem. If you wouldn't have made me with this issue, what I could be, what I should be, what I would be doing. Ribbon Shalom, your choice was to do this to me. That's a horrific thing. That's a terrible reality. That there are people that are born into this world, or Rahman al-Islam, people that are even born healthy, and then they become Bali Mumin. There's some kind of blemish, some kind of disability, some kind of defect, something that happens as a result of the world. And more often than not, vastly more often than not, through no fault of theirs and no fault of anybody else's. It says, Parshas Sheni Simi Bal Mum, Shiyuchal Limatze Belibo Taroimes Al Midasa Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Such a person walks around with a tremendous weight on their shoulders. A complaint against the Midos of Hashem. Achar Asher, he's not Tommy Gezer Aaron. Look at me. I am a descendant. I am a rightful descendant of Aaron. I'm supposed to be in the Beis HaMikdash. Vaya roy lahakriv laHashem. And I didn't want to do anything wrong with this. I wanted to be makriv to Hashem. I wanted to bring korbanos. I wanted to be connected to you. I wanted to be in your world. And to serve Hashem. Lama bara by mum. Why'd you make me with a problem? Why'd you give me this issue? Why did you deal me this deck? To take me away from that world of Kedusha. Why'd you do that to me? It's a terrible complaint. Now, these are the kinds of things, by the way, that all the Musar Shmuzan are like, yeah, there's a reason. But that doesn't take away from the fact that inside of the heart of the person that is experiencing this, the parents of the people that are experiencing these things, there isn't a deep and an anguished cry, Ribbon Shalom, why? Why me? Why this? You couldn't have chosen another way for me to be? You wanted me to be like this? Why? I want to serve you. I want to be connected to you. I want to be in your mikdash. Of course, again, it's not just a kohen, and it's not just in the Beis HaMikdash. It's the people that Rahman al-Islam are struggling to have children and are struggling to get married. And it's the people that are struggling with psychological and physical and intellectual impairments. They're screaming at Ribbon Shalom, why? Everybody else, every other kid gets to do what you need them to do in the world. Everybody else is normal except for me. I'm not normal. Why'd you make me not normal? That's not fair. Ribbon Shalom, it's not fair. And the Ishbitzer continues, says, Ki Kedushas Kohen ha'oved ein l'shayir. Because how can you compare to the Kedusha of a Kohen that's serving Hashem, to the Kedusha of a Jew that is b'pnimius of pnimius, the inside of the depths of the places where a Jew is supposed to be? How can you compare to that? He says, K'may shenir shetziva lona Hashem yisparach achilas matzah. Achilas matzahs. Kama kedusha yesh b'zeh achila. Like everybody knows the tremendous kedusha that exists by eating matzah. Regular eating matzah that every Jew does on Leil HaSeder. Every Jew gets to eat matzah on Leil HaSeder. He's got those that are healthy and well to do so. Kama kedusha yesh b'zeh achila. He says, "V'kol shekain." How much more so achilas kodesh shemayim, to be able to be a kohen that is serving Hashem, to be eating the meal together with Hashem. Kohen gets to share in the korban with Hashem. Some of the korban gets burnt up at the mizbeach, and some of the korban is eaten by the kohanim. To be able to enjoy what it means to eat in the presence of Hashem. And you have this guy, his brothers are eating, and his father is eating, and his Zaidi is eating, and his uncles and cousins, and everybody's eating their korbanos. And he's a balmum. He's a balmum, he can't do it. There's a tremendous feeling of why me, and Ribbon Shalom, why am I left out? Like we spoke about Pesach Sheni Tam this week. Lama nigara, why should we be left out? Levilti, korban Hashem u'adai. Like the people complain to Moshe, Ribbon Shalom, how could it be that we're left out? Why'd you leave me out? Such tremendous pain of people that feel that they're left behind through no fault of their own. Like the Gemara says, shetzavcha azari yikonis v'yimalik kreisa mikodesh shemayim. We see from the Gemaras how beautiful and how vital and so important it is to share that meal with Hashem. Now's not the time to explain what it means to share a meal with Hashem. But suffice it to say that every Kohen grew up with those dreams. Same as every Jew grows up with dreams of family and marriage and children and being part of a Malchus Hashem. And Rahman al-Islam, for some people, it doesn't work. And through no fault of their own. And that's tremendously painful. He says, "V'kol sheken ha-kohen ha'oved kama kedusha yimatzeh." And a kohen that has the opportunity to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, how much tremendous kedusha exists there. Going over to the next page. For at home, we're on page Kuf Lamed in the newer edition of the Mei Shalach. Ba'avodas al Hashem. The kohen knows how much kedusha there is in serving Hashem. Oh, the lights went off. We have to do the rikud for the or. There we go. He says, and then when you see that there is a mum, that there is a blemish in the kohen, there's such tremendous pain. He says, because even if he can eat from the korbanos, even if the din is that this particular kohen is allowed to eat from the korbanos, he still cannot serve in the Beis HaMikdash. He can't offer the korban. He can't be that connection point between the Jewish people and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He can't facilitate Jews coming closer to Hashem. So there's death and disability. Those are the first two complaints that exist in the world. Now the third is Uparsha Hashlishis Hu Mikoin Shenitma. Now you have a kohen that became Tameh. He's on the way to the Beis HaMikdash. He's ready. Here I am. I haven't encountered death. Nobody is. I'm not burying any relatives. I'm completely besimcha, completely betahara. I'm not a balmum. I'm exactly the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu planned a kohen to be. Perfect. Beautiful, amazing. He says, "Ki betach hakohen shu muchen la'aved es Hashem haya mishamer atzmai kodim lachem." Have a kohen, make sure he doesn't come in contact with anything that's a shmek of tumah. Anything that's a little bit of tumah, he is running a mile. I'm on my way to the Beis HaMikdash to serve Hashem. And he has purified his emotions as much as possible. That he doesn't have any inappropriate thoughts, any inappropriate feelings. He's been training his thought for weeks and months and years to be able to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, and certainly not to encounter any tumah on behalf of the body, on behalf of his guf. And then, just as he's about to get to the Beis HaMikdash, all of a sudden something happens. Now he's tameh. There he was on the way to the Beis HaMikdash, and pumped from the roof of the building that's next door, falls onto his head a dead iguana. We're in Florida. A little one, so it's not dangerous. It's a sheretz. There he is. 5 steps away from the Beis HaMikdash. Now he's tameh. What a disappointment. This is what's happened now. Now he cannot serve in the Beis HaMikdash. He cannot eat the korbanos. And he screams out, Rebbeinu Shalom, why didn't you help me? That I shouldn't be distanced from you. This is the scream of the person that says, Rebbeinu Shalom, I was on my way to do an amazing thing, and then you put a traffic jam in front of me. And now I can't do that thing. You made me miss out. I did everything on my part. I was healthy and well, and I was perfectly prepared. I set my alarm. I packed my bags. I was on my way to get on the plane to do this amazing mitzvah, whatever it is. You made me miss the flight. You did. I was ready. I was prepared. Checked my ways. I knew exactly how long it was going to take me. I planned out. I was going to be there 2 hours before takeoff. And then all of a sudden, you put this accident right in front of me on the highway. Rebbeinu Shalom, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Yeah, maybe tell me in advance that you don't want me to do this mitzvah. You don't want me in the Beis HaMikdash. And then I'd know not to prepare so much, not to get ready. Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm not put up by death right now. I'm not bothered by disability. You've taken care of all of those things. And yet somehow or another, you still don't want me. You still don't want me there. Tremendous pain of I did all the right things and Hashem didn't let me do it. It didn't work. You have this in many, many areas of life, sometimes not just missing planes. How many times have we all heard stories of parents that say, I did all the right things to raise my children in the right derech, and it didn't work? It's tremendously painful. I did all the right things, everything. I followed the guidelines, all the checks. I did all the things, all of the right schools and shuls and camps, and all of the right kavanas, I did all the right things, and you removed me from being an Eved Hashem. You made it such that I can't do this. Tremendously painful. So there's a parsha Haravias, and then comes to the 4th parsha. Who mimume korban. So now you have a Jew. He's on his way to the Beis HaMikdash. He's been saving up. He's prepared. I'm bringing a korban to Hashem. Didn't happen all the time that a Jew got to bring a korban to the Beis HaMikdash. The parsha describes the Jew that's on his way to the Beis HaMikdash. And he gets to the Beis HaMikdash. And he hands in his korban to the Kohen, who Baruch Hashem has not encountered death, and has not encountered disability, and is not encountering impurity, and everything is ready and prepared and amazing. Awesome. And all of a sudden there's a mum in the korban. And the Kohen looks at him and says, no go. Can't bring this. There's an issue with this korban. This korban doesn't belong here. There's something wrong with it. Go home, try again. Go home and try again. And all of a sudden this Jew now has to save up money again, has to prepare himself again, has to try again. Everything was perfect. Oh no, wait, there's a problem. This korban can't be brought. The scream in the heart of the owners of this korban. Rebbeinu Shalom, why did you give me this animal that I cannot bring as a korban? Why'd you do this to me? Why'd you make it such that the possessions that you gave me, I cannot use to serve you? In a very deep way, this is the scream of the Jew that says, Rebbeinu Shalom, you couldn't have given me the resources to serve you appropriately? How much do we have to scream about parnasa? It's not like you're lacking. You have. Your hand is infinite. You can give all chayratzon. You can give everybody everything. And you gave me a little bit. It's just not enough. It's got mumin. I can't do it. Rebbeinu Shalom, if you would give me more, I would absolutely be willing to do more with it. I would only be willing to serve you. Give me what to pay the mortgage and to feed my children and to give tzedakah and to pay tuition and to take care of aniyim and to support the kolelim and sponsor the kiddush. Rebbeinu Shalom, if you would make it that my money would be able to serve you properly, I would absolutely make sure that happened. And so there's a blemish in our ownership over things. We're lacking. There's something broken. There's something mistaken. There's an issue that's going on. And we're begging Rebbeinu Shalom, why'd you do that to me? That's complaint number 4. So we have death, Rahman al-Islam, and disability. And then we have accidents, things going wrong. Tumah. Just happened. And then a lack of resources to do the right things, to be able to make a difference. And then we get to the 5th parsha. Parsha Chamishis. You see the goodness of the Ishbitzer, how he sees how all of this connects to the psychology of a human being that's desperately troubled. Let's imagine that all the things worked. Everything worked out. You have a Jew who's bringing his korban to the Beis HaMikdash. And the kohen is okay. There's no death, there's no disability, and there's no tumah. And he has the right korban. And everything about him is okay. And he comes to the Beis HaMikdash and he offers his korban. And it's all amazing. And it worked. And specifically is the Zevach Toida, is the korban Toida, which is a korban, it's a shlomim, for those that are holding in the differences in korbanos, that is shared in 3 directions. The korban shlomim is, some of it is put on the mizbeach, and some of it is eaten by that kohen who is in his perfect, pristine, ideal state of purity. Some of it is eaten by the owners. My money worked. I can bring my korban to Hashem, and I can share in this seudah with the kohen and with Hashem and with my family and friends, and I can bring everybody together, and I can do all of this. So what's wrong with that? What could possibly be wrong? Parsha Chamish is the 5th parsha, before we talk about the Ma'adas. Who mizevach toida is talking about the korban toida. Shenem arba, Pasuk says about it, b'yom ahu yachel, it has to be eaten that day. Hainu she'adam mechuyev lateis hoda al l'she'avav litzik al ha'aba sheloi yivtach al yom machar. Rak sheyeh tamid b'tfilah uvayira. We'll read the next line and I'll explain this. He says, "Va'al yedei zeh ne'asar lahoiter mimenu liyom sheni, v'yimatze tza'aka b'levavos b'nei adam." Here you have a Jew. Everything worked out. The kohen, the Yisrael, the korban, everything is perfect. And you come home with this korban. You invite your family and friends. And everybody comes to give thanks to Hashem for all of these things. And once we understand this context, the korban toida is not just saying thank you for the thing that happened, but there's a tremendous gratitude on the capacity to say thank you. Because how many things could have gone wrong to prevent a person from saying thank you appropriately? To prevent that korban toida, to prevent that kiddush that we're sponsoring with our family and friends. Something could have gone wrong with the Kohanim, or something could have gone wrong with the Yisrael, or something could have gone wrong with the korban, or something could have gone wrong with anything along the derech. And all of a sudden, everything is perfect. There's a tremendous feeling of the gratitude that we can give gratitude, which, by the way, like Ba'omer is coming up, that's midas hoid shebahoid, the ability to say thank you for the ability to say thank you. That's not a simple thing. We'll speak about that, please God, a little bit more when we get to like Ba'omer. Midas hoid shebahoid. See, but there's a problem, because the din is that you have to eat that korban that day. And if it's left over till the next morning, you have to burn whatever's left over. You can't put it in the fridge. You can't save it till the next day. You know why? Because everything has been perfect. Everything has come to a place where, Ribbon Shalom, I love you. You're amazing. This is incredible. I just want to say thank you. You've saved my life. You've made it amazing. This is everything is supposed to be as it is. But that's only true for today. Nobody knows, my Yelad Yom, what's going to be tomorrow. He says, and for that reason, there's a tremendous cry within the heart of a person. Madua lo yiten lahem Hashem Yisbarach miftach oyish yuchlo la'asas kol advarim mivtachan she'Hashem Yisbarach yashem. Ribbon Shalom, if only I could be sure that tomorrow you'll take care of me like you took care of me today. If only I could be sure of that, how amazing would my life be? Because I know what it means for you to look after me. I can see that by the very fact that I'm sitting with my family and friends and eating from a korban taida, together with a kohen, the Beis Hamikdash, everything but tahara with purity and pristine and ideal, and it's amazing. I know what's possible. Can you make it like that tomorrow? And there's no promise. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that it's going to be like that. It's that sadness, that little bit of sadness, like the day after Shavah Brachas, which is, Alice and I always joke that was like the happiest day of our lives. The day after Shavah Brachas. It's the day that, like, the wedding is amazing and Shavah Brachas are beautiful and amazing and wonderful and everybody's besimcha. But the moment that you get to, like, close the door of your first apartment and everybody leaves you alone, it's like a tremendous simcha there. Tremendous simcha. But for people that understand that there's challenges that go on in life, there's a little bit of sadness, because that simcha is almost the simcha of naivety. Of right now, everything is amazing. But there'll be challenges. There'll be fights, and there'll be issues. And there'll be, Rahman al-Islam, all of the things that we've seen. There's going to be death, and there's going to be disabilities. And there's going to be impurity. There's going to be accidents. And there's going to be issues with parnasa. All of these things are going to happen, because they happen in the world that we live in. And there's this cry within the heart of a Jew, could you make tomorrow like today? Today's good. Today's good. It's like we said at the end of Yantif, the day after Yantif is called Isru Chag. From the Pasuk in Tehillim, Isru Chag ba'avosem al-karan mizbeach. Can you tie us onto the mizbeach? Just keep it going just a little bit longer. It's great right now. We're in the Beis Hamikdash. Everything is beautiful. We're offering the korbanos. It's b'simcha. It's amazing. Can you keep it going just a little longer? Maybe not a little. Maybe a lot longer, because we know that it's possible. We've tasted like that sweet taste of things going right, of all the lights being green, and having a full tank of gas and making it to the plane and doing the mitzvah. And it doesn't continue like that every day. Says the Rebbe, he says, "Va'al zeh Amar David HaMelech alav hashalom." And on this, David HaMelech says, "B'mizmor shel Yom HaShabbos," in the Mizmor for Yom HaShabbos, which is the Mizmor shel La'asid Lavai, the song for the future. Hainu La'asid L'Yom Shekulai Shabbos, Tov L'Ados LaHashem. Rebbe Shalom, we're davening for a day that we can always say it is good to give thanks to Hashem. Tov L'Ados LaHashem. Rebbe Shalom, I just want to say thank you to you. That's all that I want to do. I just want to say thank you. And that day is not this day. This day is good. This day that you come to the Beis Hamikdash and everything is perfect. But there's no guarantees about tomorrow. That Hashem should teach us, should help us, should educate us. L'Yisrael, to the Jewish people. Ki kol hadvarim lo hayu rak leman yutav la'adam. That all of these things are just for the good of people. Va'al zeh nemar lezalnu shimcha elyon, ki ha'makom she'Hashem yisbarach yinaheg lemala miseicha la'adam az yikra elyon. We want to understand how all of the things that you do for us are all good. We want to be able to see that. L'yom shekuloi tov, that everything is just great and we can just say thank you. And in the interest of time, we're going to say the next part quickly. What's the antidote to these 5 massive disappointments? So Ishbitzer is going to tell us these massive 5 disappointments are all dealt with by the 5 Yom Tovim. And you're going to have questions on how all of these things match up, and we're going to say them very, very briefly. But before we get there, the Rebbe gives us a klal, he gives us a rule, that the solution to these problems is not by there not being the problems. That's something that we are not zeicha to in our world, in our state of being. So instead, the Ribono Shel Olam gave us a different perspective on how to look at them, and those perspectives can only be gained through these Yom Tovim. It says, "V'neged ha'chamisha Parshas," against these 5 massive complaints, "Nasan lahem liYisrael chamisha Parshas ma'ados." Hashem gave us the 5 ma'ados, the 5 festivals that we're going to talk about: the Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. And here's the key line: V'heim tkufos la'adam. These are periods of time for a person. V'harchavos datoi, of the expansion of our thought. Leval yimatze by shum taromus, that we should no longer find within us these complaints. That doesn't mean that sorrows have gone away, but it does mean that the cry within us against Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, why did you do this to me, becomes much more manageable. Khalil, we're not saying that the pain goes away. The pain is real. But the taromus, the scream of the unfairness, of the injustice, that can be contended with somehow by these 5 Yom Tovim. And let's explain very quickly. He says, "V'nitan lahem neged parsha rishona Parshas Pesach." Against the first parsha, which we pointed out is the parsha of death, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us Pesach, gave us the Yom Tov of Pesach, which we had a few weeks ago. Ki Pesach hu haschalas ha'ara she'Hashem Yisbarach hu anosin chaim liYisrael. Because on Pesach, Hashem shows us that it is possible to give life to the Jewish people. It's possible to have life even after there isn't life. And that's called Geula. And so on Pesach, the Haftarah, we didn't have this year. We didn't have a Shabbos Chol Hamoed, but the Haftarah is Tches HaMesim, is dry bones. Is that somehow or another, death is not final. That as much as the whole world assumes that there is a finality to death, death is a pause. It's not the end. And that can be appreciated on Pesach. Rav Kook speaks about this extensively. We've learned these sugyas a couple of times before. Rav Kook refers to Pesach as Aviv HaOlam, the spring of the world. If you look at the natural world, it looks like in the wintertime, at least places outside of Florida, it looks like the world is dead. Mamish dead. And yet underneath the surface, there's a whole world of life just getting ready to sprout, getting ready to explode into existence. Trees look like they're done for, they're dead, they're wilting and withering, the leaves are gone and they look barren and bare. And then all of a sudden there's this little bud, this little blossom, the Aviv HaOlam, the spring of the world. You realize that death is temporary. And that's what we gain from Pesach. Pesach, we understand that death, that great tarum, is the greatest screen that any Jew ever has, is temporary. Temporary meaning in the massive scheme of the world. Because Pesach is not a yontif just for the individual, it's a yontif for the entirety of Klal Yisrael. And Klal Yisrael throughout Jewish history experiences Pesach. Which means that as painful as death is, the antidote to death is the understanding that it is not final. That it's just like the Pasuk says. It's a blip. Very painful and very destructive and very traumatic blip, but a blip. Now, again, Chalila, we're not minimizing the pain and sorrows of it. But Pesach gives the Jewish people the capacity to have a little bit nechama, a little bit of compassion for ourselves a little bit of comfort to know that one day bila mavis lanetzach, that death will be taken out of the equation, and that there will be a tchias hamesim. And that's true about death in the sense of death, and it also means that there's tchias hamesim as a return of hope, which is of course what Pesach Sheni is this whole week. Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen taught us that the world of Pesach Sheni is that even if a person is tamei and very, very far away, right? That's the things that knock you out of Pesach Rishon if you're too far or you're too tamei. So there's a Pesach Sheni, there's a tchias hamesim. There's a way of return, there's a way of coming back. Nothing is over forever. Never gives up on anybody. There's no such thing as finality to a Jew. Everything can continue. That's Pesach. And what about Shavuos? He says, "Uve Shavuos hu neged Parshas Balmum." Shavuos is about the Balmum. Why? Ki b'matan Torah nisrapu kol baalei mumin. When we stood at Har Sinai, Hashem healed every single person's ailments, everybody's defects. HaKadosh Baruch Hu healed. U'Shavus Yoreh ki Hashem yisparach yirape hakol sheyeh latov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us that on Shavuos, that everything can be healed. Everything that is broken can be fixed. Which is what it means that when we stood at Har Sinai, everybody was healed. Means that through engaging with and encountering HaKadosh Baruch Hu, especially through the world of Torah, a person can find within them the strength that was lost, the ability that was stripped away in the world of disability, the capacity to serve Hashem that is invisible in the physical world of Mumin, are all possible in the world of Torah, in the world of Shavuos. Which of course is why the Keser Torah belongs to every Jew that wants to engage in it. The crown of Torah belongs to everybody. Keser Kahuna is only for the Kohen. Keser Malchus is only for the Melech. But Keser Torah belongs to everybody. There is no mum when it comes to being a Talmid Chacham. Everybody can engage in Torah on their level and grow in Torah in their own way. There's no in that world. There's no mumin. There's no blemishes. Chazal tell us that even a mamzer Talmid Chacham is greater than a Kohen Gadol. Mamzer Talmid Chacham, somebody that is the archetype of a blemished individual, somebody that was born out of an illicit union, in the world of Torah can be greater than a Kohen Gadol. There's no mum in the world of Torah. There is a place that exists that no blemish can ever touch. It's a place of who a person really is in the deepest way, connection to Torah. There's no blemishes there. There's no faults, there's no flaws. That's the neshama shenasata b'tahira. There's a part inside a person that is untouchable. You can't mess it up. The world, that person, nobody can ruin it. That's the world of Shavuos, and that's what we're marching towards. We get into that place where we can stand at the foot of Har Sinai and recognize within ourselves the parts of ourselves that are unsullied, that are untouched, that are unblemished, that are tahara, that are healed. And from that we can heal the rest of ourselves. It's the greatest band-aid that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created for the world. It's not a band-aid. Band-aid is only surface. This is a vaccine. It changes us from the inside out. It makes us such that we are impervious to those sicknesses of the world around us. And that's what Torah offers us. The next three are a little, will require a tremendous amount of explanation. We're not going to be able to learn them in great detail now, just in the interest of time. We'll get there when we get to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. But just to explain them very quickly. So Rosh Hashanah hu neged Parshas Tameh. Rosh Hashanah is about Tumah. It's about the thing that happened accidentally. You were on your way to the Beis HaMikdash, you became Tameh, the accident that happened, the traffic jam that prevented you from doing the mitzvah. It says, Ki Tameh hu atzvus. Because Tameh is sadness. That removal from the ability to do the thing that we want to do is a tremendous sadness, both in cause and effect. Like the Rebbe says, we explained a little earlier in Parshas Emor, that Tumah means sadness. He says, "Va'al zeh hu b'Rosh Hashanah mitzvah Tkiyah Shofar." The mitzvah of Tkiyah Shofar, blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah, shelo yovei la'adam shmua sheyagia lo mimena atzvus. That the sounds that we produce and the sounds that we hear are sounds that come from the deepest places, that come from the place of truth, that we shouldn't encounter things that mess us up. There's a clarity and purity to the things that we absorb. That's what Rosh Hashanah does for us. Gives us the ability to only hear good things, to only hear the right things, to only encounter, to only meet up with the things that are helpful to us. That's what Rosh Hashanah is about. And again, there's a lot more to talk about. We're not going to be able to explain it now. This is Yom Kippurim. What about Yom Kippur? Hu neged mumei hakorban. Yom Kippur is about, Rebbeinu Shalom, if only you would be able to give me things that I could serve you better. He says, Ki be'eshi yisrael ozrim kol tovas v'anos alam hazeh. Because on Yom Kippur, what we do is we divest from all of our corporeal, temporal reality. We exit the world of the material for a moment. We just want to serve you. We don't need anything else to serve you except for ourselves. And from that place of being able to serve Hashem with nothing, just by ourselves, no food, no drink, no property, no possessions, nothing, we serve Hashem in Yom Kippur. So from that place, we restore the capacity to then own things again in the world of Kedusha. Again, we'll talk about this a lot more when we get to Yom Kippur. And then, against that final and terrible great cry of Rebbeinu Shalom, can you not make this good for a long time to come, forever? Why does it have to be that it's only good today and tomorrow it's going to be bad again? Or it might be bad again? It says, V'neged toida hainu sha'adam tzorich liyos tameh b'yira. Toida means that a person always has to fear what's going to be tomorrow. I'm always afraid. What's going to be tomorrow? Thank you, Hashem, for now. But tomorrow, who knows? Neged zeh nitah lahem mitzvah sukkah. For that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the mitzvah of sukkah. That's the mitzvah of sukkahs. We have to do our rikud again. There we go. The mitzvah of sukkah. What does Hashem do for the mitzvah of sukkah? Hainu Hashem isbarach yagain ala adam. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu will protect a human being, v'yakif osai, and surround us. Hashem says, I know that you're disappointed that this doesn't last forever. But please understand that I'm around you, that I'm surrounding you, that I'm there, that I'm present, that even though you're afraid that this is not going to go well tomorrow, even though it's great today and you have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring, it could be really good, it could be really bad, just know that I'm around. I'm around. I'm usually invisible. But in Sukkot, you should know that I'm protecting you. So V'chag Sukkot nikra zman simchasenu. There's a tremendous simcha on Chag Sukkot. Hashem gives tremendous happiness to people by telling us that He'll never leave us. And those are the antidotes. The antidotes to disappointment is b'harchavas hadas, is to expand our perspectives against the complaints of the world, the complaints of our hearts, to expand our perspective. And there's one nekuda that really ties the whole thing together. One point that this whole thing centers around is that when we expand our mind for a moment, to be makabel, to think for a second that the reason that this is happening is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to happen, and that He loves us like crazy, and that somehow or another that this is the right thing, somehow, b'harchavas hadas, and we experience that experientially on these Yom Tovim. So that answers the taremis. It doesn't take away the pain, but at least it answers the cry. And it also now gives us a very tangible and real thing to daven for on each of these Yom Tovim. Very specifically with Shavuos coming up, there's people that, Rachmana litzlan, in the last year and a half, have been dealing with a tremendous amount of sickness, a tremendous amount of mumin, of agony, of pain. To daven that they should be healed means that they should be healed from the inside out. To understand that all of the sickness that exists in the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises, Lo yasim alecha. He's not going to put it as Ki ani Hashem refecha, which is Rashi Tevis Iyar. Ani Hashem refecha. That's what we can achieve on Chag HaShavuos. Is a healing that comes from the inside out to answer the cry of the heart, to be able to say, Ribbon Shalom, we don't want to be sick with the sicknesses of this world anymore. We want you to heal us. At the very least, to acknowledge the tarumas that exist in the hearts of people that are struggling, that are really in pain, and for us to daven for them. Hashem should help all of us, and everybody should have a wonderful Lag BaOmer. Please God, we'll have an opportunity to learn a little bit more, and we will see you all for Practical Parsha next week. I'll see you then.